right before we started recording,
This is crazy.
we had some crazy NBA news, some crazy breaking news, and all courtesy of the Wall Street Journal, which I'll read the top line of the story. Federal prosecutors have been investigating whether veteran NBA player Terry Rozier manipulated his performance as part of an illegal sports betting scheme. This is in connection to the same people that were associated with Jontay Porter, who got caught up in a gambling scheme. Jontay Porter was subsequently banned from the NBA. Authorities, the Journal reports, believe that some of the people who arranged for Porter to fix his performance in 2 games last season had inside information that prompted them to bet large sums of money against Rozier a year earlier. This traces back to Rozier when he was playing for the Charlotte Hornets. Now, I got a statement from the NBA spokesman Mike Bass. He says, in March 2023, the NBA was alerted to unusual betting activity related to Terry Rozier's performance in a game between Charlotte and New Orleans. The league conducted an investigation and did not find a violation of NBA rules. We are now aware of an investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York relating to this matter and have been cooperating with that investigation. So we're back on this Ferris wheel. Serious accusations being leveled against Terry Rozier, who is a much more notable player than Jontay Porter was. From what you've read about this and what you've kind of digested, what do you make of this news?
A couple different areas. So first of all, I completely believe the NBA did a thorough investigation. The NBA just doesn't have the tools at its disposal. The federal government does. I mean, they can't issue subpoenas. They can't tap phones if they get a warrant. They can't, go bust in and if they have a warrant, go through paperwork and things like that. They can't threaten lower level people who are involved in this gambling ring with more or less prison time if they give up people above them. So all of those tactics that we know about, I mean, clearly from watching TV, but also from real life, the NBA can't do all of that. So this is a different investigation than the NBA held. And look, obviously something fishy happened because one of the things that was in the Wall Street Journal story is that some of these online gambling sites actually shut down the bets on Terry Rozier before the game even started because so much money was coming in on this random game. Obviously, Terry's a known player, but a random player out of the 400 that night playing, for a game that didn't seem to matter toward the end of the season. And that was suspicious enough that people shut some of the sites just didn't take bets on Terry that night. So clearly something fishy happened. The question is, was Terry involved, right? We know the gambling ring exists because we've already seen it be taken down in relation to Jontay Porter. Did he tip someone off that, hey, my foot hurts? He left the game, I think, right around the end of the first quarter.
Mark, yeah.
Right? And then that's sort of what upset people so much is that people bet on him to score a certain number of points or assists or whatever it was. And obviously his stats were completely different because he didn't play the rest of that game. Now, he didn't play the rest of that game or the rest of the season. It wasn't that much longer in the season, but it was enough that it's a little hard to believe that the Hornets would go along with a fake injury for the entire rest of the season if it wasn't real. So then the question is, the other way Rozier could have been involved, if he wasn't faking the injury just to play less and then manipulate the score, was did he tell someone in this gambling ring, hey, my foot hurts, I don't even know if I'm going to play tonight or make it through. They're saying this could be serious. I'd take the under on me if I were you, like if that conversation happened. Or is it as simple as someone in the organization who knew he was having foot problems said to a relative, oh man, Terry Rozier, I got to work on his foot today because, he's having so many problems. Was there a cousin or someone or a friend at Terry Rozier's house while he was getting at-home treatment who then went and told someone, oh, hey, by the way, he's having foot problems. I'd take the under on him tonight. So Rozier the NBA could be correct that Rozier is not involved at all and still something fishy happened. There is a question though, was he involved?
The best app for your big game party is actually on your phone. It's called Underdog. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during the big game, which players are going off and which ones are ice cold. Make your entries in just a few taps. With their Pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats. I'm talking yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and more. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from, and you can cook up some entries for a shot to win real cash prizes while you watch the big game. Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo
if an early injury causes your entry to lose. I've been enjoying using Underdog this season, and for the big game, I'm looking at Travis Kelce catching higher than 5 passes and picking Saquon Barkley rushing for lower than 2 touchdowns. Underdog is the best place to play Pick'em. Download the app, sign up with the promo code MMQB, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code MMQB. Must be 18 years or older, 19 years or older, Alabama, Nebraska, 19 years or older in Colorado for some games, 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
It's complicated. There's a lot of ways to look at it. And I believe the NBA did a thorough investigation because when I talked to Adam Silver before the start of the season, one of the questions I asked him was like, how much does, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but like, how much does this keep you up at night?
Yeah.
Like the Jonte Porter situation.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to the effect of, it's what worries me the most.
Right.
Because, the integrity of the game is all it has.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought at the time, as bad as it was that the Jonte Porter situation happened, it was in a weird way like the best case scenario for the NBA because it affected a two-way guy that wasn't all that involved in the games and probably didn't ultimately influence the outcome of games. Like he was the perfect guy.
And let's be honest, didn't play on the Knicks or Lakers or
right.
one of these
Toronto
Celtics.
Raptors. And,
right.
and, he's a perfect guy to make an example of. Terry Rozier's a different ballgame. He's not a perennial all-star, but he is he was a major player for the Charlotte Hornets that year. He has been a key part of the Miami Heat rotation. If this turns out to be Jonte Porter-esque, it's a catastrophe. I don't know what else you look at it. Like it is a complete disaster for the NBA. And it makes me wonder, like, how many more of these guys are kind of out there? Like we didn't know the NBA investigated Terry Rozier.
No.
Like how many more guys are they investigating? Like what does their investigation arm, look like with this stuff? Like I just, if it turns, and we don't know what the case is. The NBA says they investigated. The government says something different. They said that this case is still open. But if it turns out to be anything close to Jonte Porter, it's not quite Tim Donaghy, but it's close. Like it's along those lines. Like it's much closer to Tim Donaghy than it is to Jonte Porter.
And look, it depends on what degree it was even with Terry Rozier. It could be nothing. Again, it could be that someone told someone that's not even related to him. It could be someone else in the organization. It could be a friend or someone telling someone, and that friend goes and tells people involved in gambling. So he could have had nothing to do with this. Or he could have had something to do with this just by tipping off information. That's one of the things Jonte Porter was nailed for. Jonte Porter also bet on games himself, including his own team, using privileged information and bet on them to lose, just in case you were keeping track at home.
And there were some videos of his horrific play during some of those games that were circulating. It's like, okay, be more subtle.
So I think in terms of the lasting effect, in terms of the integrity of the league, we kind of have to see, was Terry involved at all? And if he was, in what way? If it is as serious as what Jonte Porter was doing, sorry, all of the Porters, Murrays, Denver tie, exactly. You see where my brain was. Obviously that's a whole different scenario. I think that the NBA investigation, while again, I think they were as thorough as it's possible to be. I absolutely believe that. I've heard Adam say something similar. I know how they feel about this stuff, but they are only able to do certain things. And the federal government and the Southern District of New York and all of the stuff is able to do such a wider variety of investigating. The NBA just doesn't have access to those tools. We could find a very different result from the federal investigation, and that still won't be the NBA's fault in terms of, they were trying to cover it up. But the truth is, it could be a very different result.
Yeah, I don't want to put the cart before the horse because we don't know what the outcome of this investigation is. But if there's even a whiff of truth to it, if there was even a head fake from Terry Rozier to anybody about something that could impact the game, doesn't the NBA have to impose the exact same penalty? Like, doesn't the NBA have to have an absolute zero tolerance policy? Because this is a potential nightmare. I mean, there are 500-ish players in the NBA all playing an 82-game season. Like, unless you make the punishment the version of a basketball death penalty, you're already going to risk it no matter what. There's always going to be a guy or two out there that, for whatever reason, might get involved in stuff like this. But unless you impose the strictest of punishment, I don't know what else you can do to try to wave guys off from this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, my point is, like, it doesn't have to be like what Porter did was pretty egregious. What we learned after the fact, like, he was out there, screwing around. But even if it's like,
I agree,
2% of what Porter did, it has to still be the same penalty.
No, 100%. It has to be. It has to be. That's it. You are never playing in the NBA again. Because imagine if Terry Rozier, even in a minor way, was involved in this, and then he's out on the court next year, and then people are going to be like, well, what about the games he's in? And just sort of the unfurling speculation would be too much for the league to sustain. So I don't think there's any question. If you've done anything even close to, as you say, a nod, then you're out. And that has to be the punishment. Otherwise, there's no way to control it.
What does Miami do in this situation?
Well, Miami's having a rough month, man.
Very rough month. This wasn't even their fault. This wasn't under their umbrella. I mean, this was pre.
I know, but they're still.
But if you're, I mean, the NBA doesn't really have the old NFL commissioner's exempt list, but this feels like, I don't know that you can play Rozier right now while this is ongoing.
I think they kind of have to, given everything else that's going on with that team. And B, like, from an NBA perspective, he's been cleared from an NBA perspective.
Yeah.
So even though, again, I think the federal government has different tools and could come with a different result to their investigation, from an NBA perspective, I think you keep playing him. I mean, the league has said he didn't do anything wrong in their eyes. They don't have a ton of flexibility with what else is going on in that town and that team right now. Yeah. And I would keep playing him. And by the way, he could have done nothing wrong. Yeah. There are other ways, information about his foot, which is what knocked him out, not just for that game, but for the entire rest of the season. And again, late in the season, they shut him down. But again, clearly this was real. It's not just like a fake foot injury that he got out of that night and then he shows up on the court the next day, okay, I'm ready to go. This was a real thing. And there are a lot of people in an organization who have access to information about how bad that injury is and its likelihood to affect a game that night. So it is entirely possible that Rozier had nothing to do with it. And since that is, and we supposedly live in a presumed innocent country, I think you let him play. How could you not, really?
Yeah, I mean, but in the NFL, sometimes, like, and again, we're comparing apples to oranges in a way, but like if there's a domestic violence incident or something. But
that's a different thing. You have evidence of, hey, this woman is battered. She showed up at the hospital. He was in the room. You can sit there and say, oh, well, she did this first, or, oh, this was the circumstances different than it looks. It's hard
not knowing what the government knows at this point. Like,
but what without any evidence to look at.
They got to hope that they speed through this, that they either, come up with some, indictments, arrests, whatever it may be, or say, we got nothing. Yeah. Because this is going to hang over him for a long time.
100%.